moderator, Dr. Renuka Lokhande. Thank you.
Hello.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Fair is foul, foul is fair. Men should be what they see. Say thee, thy name is woman. There is nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Nothing will come of nothing. Noise is a tale told by the beard, full of sound and joy, signifying nothing.
Wow. What amazing words. How wonderful they sound. Such lovely lines. Romeo, Juliet, Hamlet, Ophelia, Othello, Desdemona, King Lear, Cordelia, Macbeth, Lady Macbeth, Iago, Claudius, Gertrude, Goneril, Regan, Horatio, Polonius. The sheer range of characters he created. Over 1,000 of them. Wow. You know who I'm speaking about, don't you? Late Mr. William Shakespeare of Stratford and London, son of John and Mary Shakespeare, gentleman of New Place, Chapel Street, the second biggest house in the whole of Stratford. And I am the wife of the greatest playwright, the most wonderful sonneteer the world has ever seen, Mrs. Anna Hathaway Shakespeare. Is there anybody who hasn't heard of Shakespeare? The patron deity of all theatre lovers, the aspiration of all directors, a hot favorite with all academicians, the peerless phrase maker, the maker of English language. Love, lust, pride, jealousy, horror, mercy, humor, peace, romance. How masterful his depiction of each emotion is. And when he couldn't get the right word to depict something, he invented one. They say He has used 28,000 words in his plays. That's much, much more than the number of words any European playwright of his time has used. And the plays he wrote, not one or two or three, but 38 of them. All the world's a stage, all men and women mere players. They have their exits and their entrances, said the man who played his role as playwright to perfection. That is the Shakespeare you know. But the Shakespeare I know is a very different person. Of course, there's bound to be a lot of difference between the way you look at Shakespeare and I, his wife, look at him. In fact, all great men are pretty small creatures in their wife's eyes. Nobody else knows their weaknesses and drawbacks as their wives do, you see. Shall I tell you a secret? In public, all wives treat their husband as Lord and Master, the very image of God. But at heart, every wife knows him to be an ordinary person with all the weaknesses of any ordinary fellow. I am not ashamed to admit that my husband too was an ordinary man with all the weaknesses of any common person. Why my husband? It's the same with husbands all over. Hasty marriages seldom prove well. Believe, Shakespeare himself has said it in one of his plays. Is it true of my marriage? Or isn't it? I'm still not sure. Anyway, let's not talk about that now. Let me tell you a nice story. A true story. Sometimes truth can be more fascinating than a lie. Think of this as one such. Wait, I'll be with you in a minute. I come from a small village just a mile away from Stanford, where Shakespeare used to be. He used to come to our village quite often to catch rabbits or to hunt deer, or perhaps just to look at the girls. During one of his visits, he happened to see me. He wouldn't stop looking. I didn't make any response. Then, I don't know what happened. He just left. Next day, there he was again. This time, he gave me a mischievous smile, came close and introduced himself. I'll be back tomorrow, he said as he left. He came the following day, just as he had promised. Want to go with me? Where to? To the woods maybe, just like that? Oh no, I can't. My parents will never let me. Your parents don't have to know. There was mischief in his voice, and I fell for it. That day, we just roamed about in the woods. He introduced me to lots of birds and trees that I had never noticed before. Our meetings went on like this in 3 days. To like being oh, that is when you one day, he took me to the same woods. He patch of grass, came close and held my hand. And then he planted a soft kiss on my face. His breath felt hot against my face. His eyes were brimming with desire. I could feel the throbbing of his heart. Slowly, he began to push me down with his body. I turned away. Please, no, please don't. He wouldn't let go. Hey, what are you afraid of? I'm going to marry you. I know it was madness, but I actually believed him. During the next 10 minutes, his lips were all over my body, and I was lost in his embrace. Well, I made my peers the next. I could see it was very smooth where he was. At first, he seemed really happy. He even danced with joy. I'll be back tomorrow, he said, leaving. Oh, sign of him. He turned up on the fifth day. Did you speak your parents about it? Yeah, now. They were at a meeting of no visitors. It was decided since Shakespeare time he had because in the the 5 months pregnant by then. I was 20 at the time. An age when I made him answer. She felt embarrassed. He couldn't get it. She let me get it. bother you when you got me pregnant. Why does it bother you now? I didn't mince my words. It was like a slap in his face. He didn't like it at all. Well, like it or not, that's who I am. I'm not one for pussyfooting, saying one thing, meaning something else. I believe in calling a spade a spade. He didn't like the way I spoke at all. If he had to say something, he would hem and haw and beat about the bush and speak in, what do you call them? Metaphors. I couldn't make out the head or tail of what he was saying. Maybe that was the beginning of the crack in our marriage. The crack grew wider every day. Ours was no marriage between two minds. I came from a well-to-do household. I'd assumed it would be the same as Shakespeare's too. Things were very dear. My mother-in-law Mary was so vain about her noble birth that she would always mock me. You trapped my son and cheated me to marry you. What she doesn't realize is, at least Shakespeare got himself a decent bride. Her three other sons had to remain single all their lives because they couldn't get a single girl to marry them. Awfully lazy she was. Refused to soil her hands. She wouldn't let her husband do any dirty work either. He used to make leather grouse before he got married. Madam couldn't stand the smell of soaked leather. So she made him give up glove making and trade in wool instead. She wanted to make him a gentleman. My father-in-law, John Shakespeare, was not a bad-looking fellow, but he drank far too much, as if he was born to booze. To make it worse, he was a philanderer as well. He slept with all sorts of women. The son has inherited all his father's virtues. It was the day Shakespeare was leaving for London. He was going there to find work. My father-in-law had tried his hand at cattle rearing and lost even the little money he had. We were so broke, we couldn't afford even 2 full meals a day. And we had our 3 little ones to feed as well. It was only natural that my husband should also shoulder some responsibility. So, off to London he went. And before he left, I gave him a letter. Perhaps the only letter I have written him in all my life. My dear husband, I'm writing this letter to let you know that I love you and I will always stand by you. For all I know, you would have forgotten all this by the time you reach London. I remain your humble and shamelessly honest Annie. As he left, his eyes were filled with dreams, hope. I'm going to write, he said with clenched teeth. I thought he meant letters, but what he wrote were actually 37 or 38 plays, 154 sonnets, and 2 long, dirty poems. or 4 months after he had gone, I sent my brothers to London to see what he was up to. They came back and said, he's working all right, if what he's doing can be called work. He spends all his time standing outside theatres, tending to the horses of gentlemen who come to see plays. There can't be much money in that, I thought. No. Within a short time, Shakespeare had 8 or 10 boys working under him. By the time he came home again, he had been promoted to inside the theatre. I'm a prompter's assistant now, he said. Or did he say assistant prompter? Better than tending to horses, I thought. What kind of work is that? Oh, I stand behind the curtain and give the actors their lines. Oh. It was a whole year before I heard from him again. I'm writing, he had written. Comedies, he said. Tragedies, histories, comic tragedies, tragic comedies, he went on. Let him write whatever rubbish he wants to, as long as there's money in it, I thought. But there was no mention of money anywhere in the letter. At the end, he had added, come to London. Taking up his invitation, I left for London one summer day. So, after 3 days in the rickety coach, I never thought I'd reach London in one piece. The very first sight of London put me off. It was awfully cold and filthy. The cool breeze there pricked you like a bunch of needles, and the snow turned into muck the minute it fell. As for the people, they were bloody lifeless. They walked like zombies, they did. They knew how to use their head, but not their hearts. This London was no city. It was a burial ground for the living dead. Besides, Mama had always told me, women in London are all whores and men lechers. I believe a lot of girls from my own village getting pregnant before marriage had ended up in London as whores when the men who screwed them didn't own up. Poor girls. What else could they do? If they hadn't been driven out of the village, they could have earned their bread working in the fields or rearing sheep or milking cows. In London, all you can do is be a maid in somebody's house or be a whore. Get laid by the man of the house or his sons or his guests, or lie with a stranger and get paid for it. I prefer my little town to London any day. We were standing on top of the famous London Bridge that day, watching Thames flow peacefully below us. Shakespeare burst into a song all of a sudden. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?
I compare thee to a summer's day. Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Love wants to shake the darling buds of May, and summer's leaves hath all to show the day.
Was he saying this with love? Or adoration? Or was he simply teasing me? I didn't notice the tone at all. I just said, no, thank you. You should have seen his face then. He just smiled. King of smiles, my husband is. He's nothing much to look at, except when he smiles. Mr. Smile is what I call him. He never opens his mouth and laughs out loud. He doesn't want folks to see his two black broken teeth. And asked him once, how did he get those black broken teeth? It was all the candy I ate as a boy that did it, he confessed. Poor fellow. Loves sweets. He does, even now. Remember I told you, Shakespeare never spoke straight, but beat about the bush and spoke in metaphors? It was the same even when we were speaking about household matters. Metaphors was he lived with. Crazy fellow. Sometimes I would get so fed up not knowing what he was trying to say. Why don't you explain what you mean? Shh. That is a metaphor. You don't explain a metaphor. Do you know what a metaphor is? You are speaking about an object, let's say. And you say, it's not that, it's something else. To be more explicit, they're all words of big praise or abuse. He'd explain. Imagine my plight having to live with a crazy fellow steeped in metaphors. My father-in-law, John Shakespeare, was even more crazy. He must have been born in a barrel, I think. One Christmas, being dead drunk, he begged all of us with tears in his eyes, will somebody please get me a piece of white cloud for this Christmas? I was stunned. How could anybody get him such a gift? But my mother-in-law Vedi went to the garden and came back with a handful of fresh snow. The old man kissed his piece of white cloud and fell asleep even before the snow had melted. And I was married to the son of this madcap. You belong to your father, the devil, and you wish to carry out his desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and father of lies. That reminds me, Shakespeare was not only crazy, he was also a huge liar as well. Every word that came out of his mouth was a lie, fancy, illusion. Not just my husband, all the writers and poets in this world, they're all big liars. That's why they're able to create great works. Because they're all fancy, illusion, a bundle of lies, nothing else. And these folks who read them, they're half crazy to begin with. And by the time they're finished reading those books, they would have gone raving mad. As if that is not enough, they go around telling other folks, hey, this is a wonderful book. You must read it. And make them mad too. That's why I never read anything except the Holy Bible. These folks will go on writing as long as there are people who read their books. And then they'll make some money, get some awards. They're good for nothing else. Sometimes they say things which annoy other people and create controversies. And then they explain it away saying, oh, I never meant it that way. I've been misread. It's best not to read such books. Besides, where did I have the time to read them? All my life I have done nothing but slog for the house, bring up my children, and slave for my husband's books. I was the only one working in that household. Father-in-law was a no-good drunkard. Mother-in-law was a lazy bum. And my husband, who went to London to find work, was keeping himself busy writing plays and poems, eating, drinking, and having fun with all sorts of people. We'd be starving if I waited for him to bring home any money. So, along with all the housework, I had to look for ways to make a few pennies. I'd milk the cows and make butter, cream, and cheese. I'd bake bread, knit sweaters, socks, and caps. I would even do ale at home. And I would sell whatever was left after feeding the family. When I had collected a bit of money, I started lending it to folks in need. When I had so much worthwhile things to do, why would I go on reading these worthless books? Oh no, I completely forgot. Mrs. Thomas wanted me to send her some cheese. Hey, listen, take this to Mrs. Thomas. At once, hurry. Oh. Oh. I bet you're all waiting to know how Shakespeare wrote his plays. Aren't you? Aren't you? I'll tell you. He penned all his plays with a quill. He always had a bottle of ink and a few sheets in front of him. You never knew when he'd get into the mood. And when he did, he just had to dip that quill in ink and place it on the sheet, and words would come dancing. He had no particular time for writing. Some days he wrote till midnight and fell asleep on the sheets exhausted. Some other days, he got up in the midnight and started working. Sometimes when we were having a chat, he would think of something and get up in the middle of the sentence to go and put it down on paper. If I made a fuss, he'd say, shh. Writing is like sex. Just as we have sex when we're in the mood for it, you should write when you're in the mood. You should never hold it back. And I'd knock him on the head and say, don't I know about your moods? You got me pregnant before marriage because you were in the mood, didn't you? And he'd pinch my cheek and said, you naughty. Sometimes he'd sit staring at some spot without blinking his eyes. Oh my God, what's the matter with him? I think giving him a nut. Carrying on a dialogue with one of my characters. I'm delving into his mind. I'm about to capture his innermost thoughts. Don't disturb us. Then, when he had finished writing, he would say, that That's how all writers work, not just me. And I'd say, instead of dialoguing with their characters and delving into their minds, why don't all these writers dialogue with themselves and look into their own minds? Shakespeare had laughed like a dog crazy. Huh? Shakespeare was very good at guessing. He just had to look at people to know what they were thinking. I said he could read their mind. He could read my mind. It would scare me sometimes. What if this fellow blurts out whatever I'm thinking? One day, I still remember it very well. I was dreaming of some song. I don't know how this fellow came to know about it. He started singing the very same song. I was stunned. Did I sing it aloud? Or did I hum the tune? No, I hadn't. He hadn't heard it either. How did he know it then? Another time, I was counting sheep because I couldn't fall asleep. And this fellow, lying next to me, suddenly says, 55. Oh my God. What angel could have whispered in his ears that I had counted 55 sheep? Whew. Amazing fellow. One night after dinner at his place in London, I was attending to some chores inside the house. Shakespeare was pacing up and down in the drawing room, muttering to himself.
So I compare thee to a summer's day, thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's leaves have all too sharp a day. Sometimes too hot thy heaven shine, and oft a little girl complexion dim. And every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or by nature's changing goes untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose
That
possession.
sounds familiar. Where have I heard it before? Oh, yes, I remember. It's the same sonnet he sang to me on the London Bridge that day, isn't it? So, it is about me. Not bad. My husband, Mr. Smile, has written a sonnet about me. Let me see what he says. And I stood there listening.
Always, nor shall death brag, thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time no growth. So long as men can breathe, or eyes can see, so long is this, and gives life to thee.
He said all kinds of things in it. But this is how much I understand. Please forgive me if I'm wrong. I don't know anything about poems. He had said, a summer's day does not last long. The sun plays hide and seek with the clouds. Sometimes it's too bright, sometimes it's too dim. There are too many changes. But your beauty is not like that. It's constant, superior. So I won't compare it to anything mortal. Let me capture it in my poem. Through this poem, your beauty will live as long as the world exists. Wow. What amazing words. What a lovely way of saying it. Even I, who had never read a poem in my life, loved it. I felt, oh, how shall I put it, tickled or thrilled for a moment. I really felt proud of my husband. Hey, is it really about me? I'm not as good looking as he says. Besides, I'm 8 years older than him, and that has never stopped bothering him. How would he find me so beautiful then? No, it's not about me. It's about some other woman. Does that mean there is another woman in my husband's life? And he's been carrying on with her behind my back? I'll hang down. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Isn't it the same sonnet you sang to me on the London Bridge that day? But I know very well that summer's day is not me. It is about some other woman. Tell me, who is she? Uh, 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 it is not a she, it's a he. Yes, I mean it. Oh, it might sound like I'm speaking about a woman. It's really about my male friend. Not just a friend, my soulmate. He liked the poem so much, he gifted me this quote. A lovely quote or a lovely song? To be honest, all the quotes in my wardrobe, I got through my sonnets. But that doesn't mean I wrote sonnets to get quotes, but I did get them. Please, Annie, don't call me my patron. My Henry. Henry lives in Southampton, rich and generous to a fault. He is not just a summer's day. He is earth's fresh ornament, herald to gaudy spring. Just as I abide in his heart, he abides in mine. Henry, come here. I'll show you something really special. It's not an ordinary bed. It is our playhouse. What do we do in a playhouse? You play, of course. Come on, repeat after me. Oh, my love. Oh, my life. What? No sonnets for this one. I got it for just 2 poems. Long ones, of course. Wait, let me show this thing. Yeah. This is called Rape of Lucrece. And this one is Venus and Adonis. Do you want to know what the name of the fellow who raped Lucrece is? Sextus Tarquinius. Sextus. Sounds nice, doesn't it? But he was a terrible villain. Oh, you want to know if Venus raped Adonis or Adonis raped Venus? Wait, I'll explain both the poems to you in detail. What sorts of poems are these? They're full of lechers who want to rape or trying to run away, elope, as if they had nothing better to do. Did your friend give you such a nice bed for those 2 poems? Oh, he gave you money and you bought the bed. William, did he, your friend, ever sleep on this bed? Oh, Jesus. And how much did he give you for that? £1,000? Then we started our place. It was all topsy-turvy. In some plays, I would dress as a man and Shakespeare would wear a woman's clothes. In this play, a woman falls in love with me thinking I'm really a man. And the man I'm in love with keeps talking to me about another woman, thinking I'm a man. What a mess. In another play, this bed becomes an island. And I am the daughter of a wizard. And that wizard's name is Prosperous. Shakespeare said he was some fellow called Caliban. This wizard had taken the island away from Caliban and made him his slave. One day the slave hit back, of course. In another play, he said, "You are Juliet, and this bed is a grave." And I was supposed to lie in it like I was dead. He said, "He is Romeo, drained a cup of poison and fell dead, saying, 'Oh, Juliet.'" I got up, stabbed myself with a dagger, and fell dead, crying, "Oh, Romeo." In another play, this bed is a forest, and I am the queen of fairies. My husband wants to punish me because I didn't obey him. So he makes me fall in love with an ass. And from his hiding place, he actually watches me making love to the ass. Can you imagine such a husband? In one more play, I was the sweetheart of the Prince of Denmark. This prince is something of a madcap, or pretends to be mad. Or maybe he has been pretending for so long that he actually gone mad. I was never sure. I wonder if even Shakespeare knew. Anyway, I go to pluck flowers by the water and fall into the pond, on the bed I mean, face down, just as Shakespeare had told me to. And Shakespeare would come and fall on top of me. This is how all our plays ended. William, how is your friend to look at? You little whore. He's not your rival. You say with love. Oh, come on, don't give me all that. Please, tell me, what's he to look like? Shall I read you all the sonnets I've written about him? Oh, just tell me in a few simple words. And then he starts off. 21 springs has he seen. My angel, my saint, my inspiration. Look in thy glass and tell the face of yours. Now is the time that face forms another, whose fresh repair, if now thou not renewest, thou dost beguile the world. Unblessed woman, where is she so fair, whose unyielded home disdain the tillage of thy husbandry? This Henry was not just a bedfellow. He was Shakespeare's soulmate. The two were never away from each other. Shakespeare loved him deeply and passionately. That's why out of the 154 sonnets he's written, 128 are about friendship. This Henry was an ideal friend. He responded beautifully to Shakespeare's dreams and hopes. He read whatever Shakespeare wrote and praised him most eloquently. Maybe he would have made Shakespeare a better wife. By some quirk of fate, I became his wife. I never responded to his feelings in a nice, gentle manner. I was almost brutal in my honesty. I said things up to his face. When he came home for a few days after years, I wanted him to say nice, romantic things to me, make love to me. Instead, he'd say, "Shall I read you my latest poem?" I'd get away saying, "Oh, I have such a bad headache." I didn't care for poetry. Maybe it is this which brought the two of them together. What Shakespeare couldn't find in me, he must have found in his friend. I couldn't change myself to be the kind of wife he wanted. So his friend took my place. It was only later that I came to know about the rift between Shakespeare and his friend, and that his friend had thrown him out. Somebody came and told me. Do you know of any husband who comes straight to his wife and tells her what he's been up to? It's always through other people that wives come to know about their husband's misdeeds. That too after everything is finished. This wretched woman was carrying on with Shakespeare and his friend at the same time. One day the friend came to know about it. He blamed Shakespeare for it and threw him out. During the next few years, I didn't even know where Shakespeare was. Now I remember. One day, we were walking along the Thames. Out of curiosity, I asked him, if your friend is a summer's day, what am I? And he says, without blinking an eyelid, you are a lady in winter. I hadn't understood it then. I just giggled and knocked him on the head. But now I know I've always remained a cold winter day, never warmed his mind or heart. I wonder why we women expect our husbands to continue loving us even after knowing how wanton they are. Take me, for instance. After knowing everything about my husband, I was still curious to know if he loved me. Call it unhealthy curiosity if you like. So, I had my daughter Susan read me everything he had written. That's when I found this poem. Ah. My mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why, her breasts are dull. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. This one appears a lot like me. I'm sure it's about me. But my daughter Susan said, no, I'm sure it's about that black lady. Susan is my oldest daughter. Conceived when Shakespeare made love to me for the first time. Clever girl she is. Sharp too. Worldly wise also. She's a sight for the sore eyes. She's always saying, Papa has been very unfair to his women characters. He has treated them very badly. He either glorifies their loyalty to their husbands and puts them on a pedestal, or questions their chastity and condemns them. In his eyes, women are puppets in men's hands. A woman is either an angel or an adulteress. I don't understand these things because I don't read any books. Besides, the times we were living in were also like that, weren't they? Folks looked down on women. Not that things are any better now. My second one, Judith, is not like her. Rough, dull she is. Though she's 2 years younger, she looks like the older sister. Poor girl. She had talent, but she refused to write. It was because of his writings that Papa stayed away from us, she says. many houses in Stratford. That was a big miracle. Folks said the fact that both the twins lived even that long was a miracle. But God wasn't so merciful when it came to Hamlet. I tried so hard, but it was all in vain. I couldn't even inform his father about his death. Ah. Shakespeare came back to Stratford to spend his last days. He brought quite a bit of money with him. Money he had earned from writing plays. He had given up drinking by then. He started again after he came back home. It upset him to see his daughter Judith's life go to pieces. That was only an excuse, not the reason. And he left us one day. We never thought the end would come so soon. Did he drink himself to death? Or was it some secret disease he had picked up in London that killed him? Who knows? 1616, April 23rd. That was his 52nd birthday. He died on the same day. Shakespeare needed me to run away from and to come back to. I was both his beginning and the end. Books were written about him have said very unkind things about me. They say all the wicked women in Shakespeare's plays are modeled after me. All because I was 8 years older than him. Little do they know about all those gentlemen in our times who married women twice their age for the sake of their title and money. Anyway, whatever they might say, I've always been a good, loyal wife. Although Shakespeare left me alone to bring up 3 little children, I never blamed him. I've lived alone for 30 years without desiring another man's company. I've always wished him well wherever he was. But you know what the tragedy is? These folks who write about the lives of famous men write about all the other women who cross their lives, but never say a word about their wedded wives. They don't even mention all the hardships they suffered and the sacrifices it cost them to make their husbands famous. We have to talk about them ourselves. Shakespeare spent his last couple of years with me. I cried when he died. Tried really hard. But I don't know if it was for me or for him. And before he breathed his last in my arms, he added a sentence to his will. I give unto my wife my second best bed with the furniture. So, who did he leave the other best bed to? To his friend? Or to the black lady? Or to some other woman you and I don't know about? It wasn't me, that's for sure. I've always been alone. Even when he was close by, he remained distant from me. He never appeared in my dreams even once after his death. I flit about this big house like a ghost. Sometimes I feel I'm lost in a dark, deserted plain, caught in a storm. William? Susan? Judith? Hamlet? My son? Hamlet? Gautam Aradhya, and taken care of the sets. Gautam, where are you? And Vishwaraj Patil, your own brilliant director, design, direction, Vishwaraj Patil. The sets were made by Vishwanath Mandi. The costumes were designed by Mangala N. And the music was composed by Gajanana T. Nayak. And the rich voice you heard in the background belongs to Professor Balaji. I wish to thank all of them and, of course, Professor Donur, Anand, Prakash, and all the staff of and students who have been so good to us during our visit here. And thanks to all of you for watching the play and responding to it so beautifully. Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am. I request all the artists to stay back on the stage. Good evening, everyone. This was a fabulous performance, very speechless, and I hope this was an experience there. Now I request Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Satyanarayan sir, and Professor Laxmi madam. I request Balaji sir also to come on the stage, please. The play is written by Uday Itigi, translation by Laxmi madam. Music composition was done by Gajanan T. Nayak. Execution of music and set was done by Gautam Upadhyay. Costume design by Mangala M. Set by Vishwanath Mandi. And voice in the background that you heard was that of Professor Balaji, giving you the English feeling here. Thank you, sir. And now I request Professor Batunar and Sir Honorable Vice Chancellor to express his few words on this. So you came at the last minute. I know Sir might have got the glimpse.
Professor Basaras Donor, the registrar. Srimati Laxmi Chandrashekhar ji and other, this is our team. This is a wonderful play. I told in the morning also, the Shakespeare life is full of tragedy. She has expressed how he has suffered. So we are enjoying his all his writings now. Whatever dramas, whatever novels, whatever is written by him, we are enjoying. But how is life? Is one of only one son has died at the age of 11. He also died at the age of 52. So he played. He's a dramist. He played in the dramas like this. Now, just I also witnessed that how he is not at all bothered about his family. Only his wife is taking care of him. She's also 8 years elder than the Shakespeare. So just that is reflecting those days, how he has contributed all this literature because he ignored his family. Because of that, he was becoming famous. So really, it has reflected the real life of the Shakespeare by Madam play today. Though I attended only late, but I can understand what is the life of the Shakespeare. Once again, congratulating the Laxmi Chandrashekhar ji for playing this wonderful play on Shakespeare life. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I request you to take the seat. Now I request our resource persons, special invitees, those are the faculties and students especially. If you like to share your opinions or discuss something with ma'am or appreciate her, please come on the stage. Or if you want, I'll just hand over the mic to you. Especially our students have been studying papers on drama, UG and PG. And there were experiments in the classroom also when it comes to voice rendering and enacting, right? So probably you might have learned a lot from ma'am now. So in that case, if you don't want to speak, I request you to show your appreciation by giving us a big round of applause. Thank you so much, everyone. Mahendra sir wants to say something.
It was a very good performance, ma'am. I just have one doubt. What is the source of this particular play? How was it constructed? I have my.
Well, actually, it's a Kannada play written by Uday Itagi, and he was inspired by Robert Ney's novel, Mrs. Shakespeare. And when he wrote the play on Facebook, he asked me if I would stage it. And I asked him to send the play. I read it. I liked the play, but I felt there was something lacking in it. It wasn't really, Anne was not coming through as a strong woman. And I wanted her side of the story, not just tell us her husband's story. So I came across this wonderful book by Germaine Greer, Shakespeare's wife, and it's a very well-researched book. Germaine Greer did her PhD on early Elizabethan plays, and she has done so much research, collected all the documents from the parish registers and the local courts, around that area and the ballads of that period. So there was a lot of material in that. So I managed to put that into the play. We changed it a bit. Vishwaraj also didn't want to, stage just what was in the Kannada script. So together we kind of gave it a new life, and I translated it to English because I'm a translator and I love translating anything. And as it happens, all my solo performances, I have done them in both Kannada and in English. So I thought, why not this one too? Particularly because Shakespeare is so dear to even the non-Kannada world. So this was one good way of reaching out to even the non-Kannada speakers. So that's how the play came about. And of course, it was Udai's persistence that resulted in the production. So I said, I have to get a director, and he found Vishwaraj. And he brought him all the way to Bangalore. Vishwaraj used to travel back and forth from Kalburgi to Bangalore, which is not an easy thing to do. I have learned after 2 visits to Kalburgi, but he was good enough to actually accept the challenge, come to Bangalore and direct the play.
This evening was something which forced us to think. The literature that we read, the literature, the way we perceive it, the way we look at life, the way we sometimes end up judging, or sometimes we don't even care what kind of life we are leading, the relationship we are in. In the afternoon, when I spoke to ma'am, she asked me to wait to watch the entire play and then raise the questions. I was about to ask her if she is the wife of Shakespeare, Anna Hathaway, then what would be the 3 things that she would cite here? 3 things which she loved Shakespeare as a writer, and 3 things or 3 complaints that she would have towards Shakespeare as a husband.
See, as public figures, men may be great, much loved, etc. But what goes on between a husband and wife is something very different. And that famous saying, there is a woman behind every man, every great man. Why should the woman always remain behind? Why can't she walk hand in hand with him, share the credit? Does Shakespeare say anywhere? Does he thank Anne anywhere in any of his plays for the support she gave by staying home and bringing up his 3 children? The children were hardly 3 when he left, and 3 children and no man to feed them. So having to run the household, look after these children and earn the money needed. And she really built a life for herself and to live alone for 30 years. There was not a single scandal about her. That was a very rare thing in those days. So where does she get the credit for it? I think I would be pretty angry if all I did was to contribute to my husband's greatness and, I don't like that kind of total selflessness. I think women should be more selfish. They should also think about their own growth. Whatever they have done, they also want recognition. It's only human that when you have worked so hard, you want some recognition. And if I were Anne, I would, pick up a fight with Shakespeare perhaps over that.
While we have successfully traced the journey of Shakespeare, who was roaming around in the countryside to taking relationship with wife, just a minute, sir. And then becoming a bard, a famous bard, and then going back to the countryside again as a secluded. So you have covered the entire journey. So sometimes we are forced to think about the charted roads that individuals walk. And we are forced about the equations between a man and a woman, the relationship between man and a woman. The journey of an individual trying to think about oneself, trying to understand oneself, and trying to see the dimensions of relationships too. So sometimes we pity for Anne, and at the same time, sometimes we judge Shakespeare being a careless husband. But towards the end, we do feel that the two individuals may be thinking that we have a lot of time to live on this earth.
So Anne, I think, deserves more than pity. She
Yes.
deserves admiration.
Towards the end, we do.
Her life is, I think, she's such a brave woman. She deserves a lot of, admiration, gratitude. I think people have been very unfair to her, you see, because she was 80 years older. That is the only reason, because we have no facts about Shakespeare at all. All we know is that after his marriage, 3 years after the marriage, he went to London. And just because he went to London in pursuit of glory or work or whatever it was, why blame the wife for it? Why think of her as a wicked woman who drove her husband out? Why don't you think of her as a woman who supported her husband by agreeing to stay at home and look after the children if he wanted to go to London and find his fortune? Why did people not think about it? It's a man's world, you see. It's so patriarchal that the woman gets the blame, not the praise for whatever Shakespeare did.
I guess so. It's to ask the question. So you may need to come here.
More about the title of the play. So the play.
Sorry, I can't hear.
Title of the play.
Sorry?
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare's wife. Actually, I wanted to name it The Woman Who Married Shakespeare. Because one of the tragedies is a woman is always known as Mrs. So-and-so, somebody's wife, somebody's mother. I did another solo called Lady minus Macbeth, because Lady Macbeth doesn't have a name. You see, she is just Lady Macbeth, Macbeth's wife. And, she have her own personality. So why not treat her as an individual? Look at her with more sympathy. What chance did a woman have of achieving glory, of achieving a higher status, except through her husband? The society that she lived in forced her to find glory only through her husband. If she wants to be queen, she has to make her husband the king. There is no choice for a woman. Even in Shakespeare's time, although Jermaine Grayer's research shows that that big new house that Shakespeare is supposed to have bought was in shambles. He got it for something like £60. And it was Anne who funded the renovation of the house. She had made a lot of money, saved up money by money lending. And it was she who subsidized all this. But again, Shakespeare becomes a gentleman. Shakespeare gets the credit for, coming and buying this new house and things like that. So that is, that's always been, history has been against Anne. So we have to rewrite it.
Anything else to add?
Just wanted to add one more thing. Why?
Sorry.
Again, it is about the title. By giving the title Mrs. Shakespeare, what I thought was it was a thing that a lot of people do, a lot of popular people do, tapping into the popularity of a person and telling a story. That's what and that's what I asked this question. Could you elaborate on the title?
Yeah. So I did think a lot about it. Suppose we call it Anne Hathaway. Not many people would be interested. Like you said, it is because of Shakespeare that Anne Hathaway is remembered. What she contributed to make Shakespeare what he was is what the whole thing is about. So the story has to be told using Shakespeare's name. So if you don't use Shakespeare's name there, if I just said Anna Hathaway, I don't think represent some woman. Why should we really be interested? Yeah, it is. But it's only when people see the play that the purpose is served. If people don't even come to the theatre to see the play, they go, woman called Anna, who cares? You say Shakespeare's wife, then people say, oh, it would be taken. So, this is again, it's a tragedy. That is, again, the irony of the whole thing. If you don't use Shakespeare's name, I will not be able to do shows. People will not invite me. I wouldn't have been invited to Shakespeare's.
In our way. There is a point that the play is making.
Thank you, ma'am, for leading us to the times of Renaissance, to the early periods, when domestic life itself was nothing. It meant nothing. Women meant nothing. To trying to give an agency to a woman. It's not just about having, but it's about every woman. It's about every relationship. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what matters is the relationship, which has respect, love, and there is care. So only then we can have a good society. It's not about who is great or who is low, but everyone, every individual must get one share of respect and every opportunity. So thank you, ma'am, for putting forth the question of status of women and providing articulation to women's issues. Thank you once again. On behalf of the Department of English, School of American Languages, and also on behalf of Central University of Karnataka, and again on my own behalf, I extend a great thanks and gratitude to ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, and we all wish you all the best for your future dreams and aspirations, especially creating a society towards equity for both the genders. Thank you once again. And there's an announcement. Tomorrow we'll start all the sessions, parallel sessions and plenary sessions, if any, sharp at 9 a.m. So I request all the delegates and students to turn up early. I hope you'll stay with the comfortable here. Though it's very hot. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, dear. I extend a special thanks to Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Narayan, sir. Despite all the administrative pressure, he has taken enough time to at least arrive here for a few minutes. Thank you so much, sir, for being a backbone of our university and everyone present here. Thank you, Dr. sir, for being the constant force behind all the individuals. Kindly wait for a minute. Sir has to make